Thanks so much for 35 subscribers. As promised, this new Autism and Popular Culture video is a 2-for-1 because I missed the 30 sub special. So, Phineas and Ferb. Phineas is possibly ADHD. We'll get into that. One of my favorite shows as a kid, if I'm being honest with myself, still one of my favorite TV shows. It's just that good. Uh, so I'm looking forward to talking about it today. One of the big indicators for Phineas, and it's kind of played as a joke, he's oblivious to a lot of these like social cues type things. I'm focusing on Isabella because it's one of the more obvious ones. Like, she's very explicit, very obvious, and it just whoop goes right over his head. He has a hard time telling those social cues. There's other ones he has a hard time with, like Candace. He doesn't seem to get that she's like actively trying to bust him, even though she gets pretty clear about that too. He's just like, okay, we're good. He doesn't quite get the subtext to a comical degree. There's some fun. We have the incident with the Racing Planets episode where he's like, I saved Venus for you. And she's like, is it because Venus is the goddess of love? Actually, I didn't even think about that. Like, stuff like that. The degree to which he is just completely oblivious to the hints she's trying to drop seems like someone who's definitely not getting social cues in a, shall we say, normal neurotypical fashion. And yeah, it's played for laughs. The word savant is used to refer to Phineas at one point by Isabella, and this isn't the case anymore, but because savant syndrome is often associated with autism, excuse me, is often associated with autism spectrum disorder, the two terms have been used interchangeably in the past. Like I said, that's not the case anymore, but at the time that was a thing. So in the show itself, they call him a savant, which, like I said, often associated with autism spectrum disorder. The other character who the term gets used to refer to is actually Doofenshmirtz, who also has a lot of symptoms. But we'll get, maybe that's a future video. Who am I kidding? That is the future video. If we get to 40. Yeah, Phineas very oblivious to social cues, pretty traditional autism symptom. He also tends to hyperfixate, and one thing I will say for ADHD, for Phineas, autism and ADHD coexisting in an individual, impulsivity is one of the big ones for that, and he's the one deciding every day what they're going to do. I know what we're going to do today. And often it revolves around his most recent hyperfixation, whether that be the Lake Nose monster, where they're going to vacation at Lake Nose, and he's like, okay, we're going to prove this thing exists, and they just do it in a day. He like fixates on that and decides this is what we're going to do now, and they do it, and they have fun. Or Klimpaloon, this is the Klimpaloon ultimatum is a really weird episode, but it's a lot of fun. But yeah, similar deal. Just like fixated on Klimpaloon right now. And probably the most famous of the ones I chose to highlight, the aglet thing, where he like finds out about aglets and then for the rest of the day that's what he's fixating on. Making sure people know what aglets are until his memory is erased. Like, that is the only thing that can change his focus from aglets, is getting his memory erased and not knowing what they are anymore. So he's definitely a hyperfixator, which that goes for autism and ADHD. So that kind of goes hand in hand. And yeah, the impulsive thing, the sudden, I know what we're going to do today, and then making that happen. And obviously he's very mechanically gifted. He's a highly intelligent kid who has sometimes, like I mentioned, is oblivious in social situations. So definitely exhibits a lot of signs of being on the spectrum. One thing I particularly appreciate about this show is that the two main characters, Phineas and Ferb, both exhibit a lot of autistic traits, but they present them in very different ways. And that's a lot of fun to see because it presents in different ways in real life too. So that's one aspect of the show that I appreciate watching it again as more or less an adult. That's probably going to sound terrible in the microphone. Sorry, it's got to be so close to my mouth. Anyway, so yeah. Ferb also exhibits a lot of autistic traits. Unlike Phineas, he is a lot less verbal. And this, I don't remember exactly which episode this was, but it's a fun one because Isabella earlier, actually no, later, at some point Isabella has been questioned like, wait, Ferb doesn't talk much, because Phineas is like, oh man, I miss Ferb. Since she's like, wait, but he never says anything. But in this episode, she's been going for her 24 hours of silence patch. And at the end of it, she's like, I can see why you don't talk very much, Ferb. I enjoyed it. I had a whole internal monologue with myself all day. And then he says, welcome to Ferbland, and it cuts to this little shot of him and a bunch of different versions of himself talking to each other about how the universe is expanding, but what is it expanding into? So it's a fun, like, he doesn't talk very much, but he's still present, but he's also having a conversation with himself inside his head, and that is definitely something I have done. I'm more verbal than Ferb, generally speaking, but I often have, like, internal monologue going all day, and sometimes it's an external monologue. And then I'm like, oh no, I've been rambling about this one thing, and now it's kind of awkward. But all that aside, internal monologue, very much a feature, pondering all these different kinds of things. And one thing that I think is sort of cute about the show with Ferb's nonverbalness, Phineas like understands and respects that, and a lot of his other friends do as well. But Phineas especially understands that, like, there's a lot going on in Ferb's head, and isn't bothered by the fact that he doesn't talk very much. He's like, hey, we're here, we get each other, and I don't know, just the fact that he's not like pressuring Ferb to talk more, I think is cool. Similar to Phineas, Ferb has a lot of special interests and hyperfixations. Obviously, building things is very important. If Phineas is the idea guy, Ferb's the here's how we're going to get this done guy. He also, I couldn't find like a good picture or video of it. Ferb's got some coordination issues, which is funny. He's a great dancer, and it's kind of hilarious, but he's also like, there's a scene where he's waving at somebody and he's holding a wrench and he hits himself in the head with it. Or he'll like, I don't know, he gets like accidentally pantses himself a couple of times over the course of the show. So he's got some funny, like, the duality of really good at this one thing with coordination, but also has coordination issues, and that's definitely an autistic trait, is coordination. I've struggled with coordination my whole life. That's going to be a funny video when I get around to it. I have a funny story about me attempting a high kick that I won't spoil here, but it's highly entertaining. So yeah, coordination issues is a thing, but then also this, like, really good at this one particular thing that requires coordination. Dancing is obviously a big interest of his. Building stuff. Video games, apparently. Belgique calls him an internationally ranked video game wizard at one point, and it's not even specified what video game. For all we know, it's just every video game. That's why he has the trophy. He just beat every video game in existence. I mean, that's probably not why, but yeah. So, video games, dancing, building stuff. He has several special interests. Also, Vanessa Doofenshmirtz. And I'll be honest, this coupling makes me a little bit uncomfortable. I don't really need to go into that, but I don't know. The age gap is a little funny. If they had, like, met as adults, that wouldn't be so much of an issue. I don't need to go into this. It's not important. Anyway, like I said, he sees Vanessa once, develops a huge crush on her, and spends the entirety of the show trying to get her to like him whenever he sees her. Which, yeah, fixating. Definitely something Ferb does. There's also a big thing with the spectrum is, like, there's a need for routine, and even though Phineas and Ferb's routine is crazy and fantastical, I mean, they're building these incredible things, it is kind of a routine. I mean, they do it every day. They come up with this big project idea, and then they execute it really well, and they have a lot of fun. And But the fact that they need this routine is demonstrated in the episode Bully Bromance Breakup, where Baljeet, that was a lot of alliteration, but Baljeet decides he wants to climb this mountain without any, technological aids because he's just had a falling out with Buford. And so Phineas and Ferb are supportive of their friend in this endeavor, but have a really hard time with the no inventing thing, and they handle it very differently and very characteristically. Phineas has his poor little borderline breakdown here, where he's like, keeps coming up with new ideas for things they could invent to help Baljeet do this, and is just listing them off rapid fire. So like robotic suction spikes, mechanical lobster claws, pinecone grappling hooks, towing spiders. He's just poor kid's a mess at the moment, just breaking down because his routine has been messed up, and that is definitely something that has happened to me as far as like, but this was supposed to happen, but it's not happening, but I do this all the time, and now it's like I've been upset when the mail was late, like unreasonably upset, because that was just part of my routine. So yeah, this need for routine, and then the distress when the routine is interrupted. And Ferb does not demonstrate it throughout the course of that episode, but at the very end, when they finally get to build an ice chalet, he's like, I was going to scream. And I've actually experienced, like I said, I've experienced the Phineas thing with the whole, but maybe we can do this instead, da da da. Must find some way to complete the routine. And then I've also had the Ferb situation where I'm like, I'm just going to go along with this. It's going to be okay. I'm just going to go along with this, and getting progressively more tense until finally I can do something to alleviate like that need for a routine to do what I was expecting to do. But yeah, that need for a routine and then great distress if that routine is interrupted is something you see a lot, and something they definitely exhibit the time they're not actually able to build anything. And I didn't think about including this in the slideshow, but I just remembered it. Even that one time, it's a dream that Candace has, so it doesn't technically count, but it takes brainwashing them to get them to deviate from that routine without stress. Like the only way to get them to not invent something new every day is to actually brainwash them, which that's terrifying. But yeah, so that it's this routine that they get into, even if it is more fantastical than what you'll see most people having as their daily routine. One thing that's fun with them, I touched on this a little bit in the slide about Ferb being nonverbal, but he's not. I say nonverbal. There are autistics who are like actually nonverbal. Ferb is more prefers not to talk, so maybe I should just say prefers not to talk, but it amounts to more or less the same situation as far as he doesn't talk. But that doesn't matter. They understand each other really well, which is kind of cute to see. So you have Ferb being like, I know what's about to happen, and kind of counting down to Phineas's, I know what we're going to do today. Which again goes into that whole routine thing. It's like a routine of impulsiveness, which is kind of funny. They also have this little sign language thing they've developed. Not that it always works. I know what we're going to do, spatula. Which you really should have known from the context, as he says. But yeah, they understand each other really well. There's even this, anyone else here living a bizarre double life, put your hand down for, like, he knew already that I want that to be developed more. Maybe that just refers to his Ferb's internal monologue, but yeah, bizarre double life, fun. This video is becoming longer than I meant it to be, but I guess it's a 2-for-1. That makes sense. I'm dealing with 2 characters. So probably going to wrap this up pretty quick here, but yeah, I really loved this show as a kid. I was always a bit more drawn to Ferb. I liked that he was the quieter one with the rich internal monologue. I liked all of them, but Ferb I was a bit more drawn to. Also Doofenshmirtz, and yeah, like I said, if we get to 40, I'm definitely doing a video about Doofenshmirtz because there is so much to say. But yeah, Phineas and Ferb, good examples of like how you can actually have good examples of like good autism representation as far as like they both are on the spectrum, but they exhibit it in very different ways, but they still like work together really well and understand each other really well. It's cool. Go watch it. Thanks again for 35, and yeah, hopefully I'll get to talk about Doofenshmirtz soon.